Some of the habits shortening your lifespan aren't cigarettes or junk food. One of them is a pill your doctor may have handed you with a smile recommended for decades by major health associations and now proven in 3 separate clinical trials to kill more people than it saves. Another is sold in every health food store labeled as a cancer preventative and tested in a clinical trial that had to be stopped early because participants taking it were dying from cancer at a higher rate than the placebo group. And before we get to either of those, there is a physical discipline that every gym, every endurance coach, and every marathon finish line treats as the pinnacle of human health. Science has quietly found it, scars your heart. Every single habit on this list has been endorsed by a doctor, praised by a nutritionist, or celebrated by wellness culture. By the end of this, you will know exactly which common healthy habits may be taking years off your life, and which single one to change first. We are going through 10 of them, ordered from subtle to genuinely alarming. The worst ones are not coming first. Habit 1. Drinking 8 glasses of water every day. This advice is everywhere. Your doctor's waiting room, your fitness app, your wellness influencer's morning routine. There is one problem. It was never scientifically established. In 2002, a physiologist named Heinz Valton spent 2 years searching medical literature for the origin of the 8 glasses per day rule. He published his findings in the American Journal of Physiology. He found no clinical evidence supporting it, none. Your body already runs a precision water management system called thirst, a feedback mechanism calibrated to your exact weight activity level and internal chemistry. When you consistently drink past your thirst, your blood sodium concentration begins to drop. That drop is called hyponatremia, low sodium in the blood, and sodium is the electrical signal that every nerve and every cell in your body runs on. When it falls severely, the brain absorbs excess water and begins to swell against the inside of the skull. This is why endurance athletes have died from drinking too much water, not too little. This is why hospitals treat hyponatremia as a medical emergency. Drink when you're thirsty. Your body has been handling this calibration for 1,000,000 years without a hydration goal. But that's nothing compared to the next habit, one that billions of people perform every morning in the name of hygiene. Habit 2. Antibacterial soap and daily hand sanitizer. The logic seems airtight. Eliminate bacteria, eliminate disease. But your skin is not a surface that needs to be sterilized. It is a living ecosystem housing roughly 1.5 trillion microorganisms, a community called the microbiome that actively trains your immune system. Think of it like a sparring partner. Your immune system requires regular low-level contact with bacteria and environmental antigens to stay properly calibrated. Without that contact, it begins to misfire, attacking your own tissue instead of foreign threats. The connection between modern over-sanitization and the explosion of autoimmune conditions is now well documented enough that immunologists gave it a name, the hygiene hypothesis. Rates of asthma, Crohn's disease, multiple sclerosis, and rheumatoid arthritis are highest in the most sanitized parts of the world. The FDA agreed. In 2016, they banned triclosan, the main antibacterial compound in consumer soaps, citing evidence of endocrine disruption and its role in breeding antibiotic-resistant strains. This is why children raised on farms with regular animal contact have dramatically lower rates of allergies and autoimmune disease than children raised in clinical environments. Regular soap removes harmful pathogens. Antibacterial products remove the ecosystem that keeps your defenses sharp. Now, this next one sounds more obvious, but the mechanism runs deeper and more fatally than most people realize. Habit 3. Total sun avoidance. After decades of skin cancer warnings, many people now treat sunlight like a chemical hazard. SPF, every morning, indirect windows, long sleeves outdoors. The precaution has quietly created a different problem. More than 40% of adults in developed countries are now vitamin D deficient, and vitamin D is not just a nutrient. It is a steroid hormone that regulates over 200 genes inside your cells. Low vitamin D levels have been associated with accelerated tumor growth, cardiovascular disease, clinical depression, and multiple autoimmune conditions. A 2014 meta-analysis in the British Medical Journal, drawing from nearly 200,000 participants, found that the lowest vitamin D levels were associated with a 35% increase in all-cause mortality risk. Your body produces vitamin D through a reaction in your skin triggered by UVB radiation, the same radiation your sunscreen blocks. 15 to 20 minutes of direct sun exposure on your arms and legs produces roughly 10,000 IU of vitamin D, more than any supplement available over the counter. This is not a case against sunscreen during prolonged exposure. It is a case against treating total sun avoidance as automatically safe when the downstream consequences are affecting your brain, your immune system, and your heart. And the next one will sound almost too healthy to argue with until you see what it is quietly depositing in your nervous system. Habit 4. Eating swordfish, tuna, or king mackerel daily for the omega-3 benefits. Omega-3 fatty acids are real, and the evidence for their cardiovascular benefits is solid. But the fish at the top of the ocean food chain are apex predators. They have spent their lives eating smaller fish that ate even smaller fish. Each step up the food chain concentrates toxins in the tissue. This process is called bioaccumulation. Methylmercury, the form of mercury found in fish, does not flush out. It binds to proteins in your brain, kidneys, and peripheral nervous system and accumulates over years. Think of it like compound interest on a debt your body cannot fully repay. Every daily tuna lunch adds another deposit to a balance that only grows. Long-term methylmercury exposure has been linked to cognitive decline, cardiovascular damage, kidney dysfunction, and motor tremors, the exact opposite of what you are eating for. The FDA explicitly limits consumption of high-mercury fish for this reason. Sardines, wild salmon, and Atlantic mackerel deliver the same omega-3 load with a fraction of the mercury burden. The goal was always the fatty acid, not the apex predator. Each of these has had an obvious corrective drink to thirst. Use regular soap, get some sun. Choose lower mercury fish. The harm was real, but it was gradual, and the fix was simple. But here is where it gets different. The next habits are not just doing less than advertised. They are actively working against you through mechanisms your body cannot easily compensate for, and the people doing them are not just uninformed, they are convinced they are being disciplined. That is what makes the next ones harder to stop. Habit 5. The fat-free, low-fat approach to eating. Here is what actually happened. In the 1970s and 80s, saturated fat was identified as a driver of heart disease. The food industry responded by stripping fat from everything and marketing the result as healthy. But fat is what makes food taste like food. Remove it and the product becomes unpalatable. So the industry replaced fat with refined sugar and starch, cheaper, more addictive, and metabolically far more damaging. Your fat cells do not respond directly to fat. They respond to insulin, the hormone your pancreas releases every time blood sugar rises. Every spike of refined sugar triggers an insulin surge. Insulin signals your fat cells to store energy. The more frequently insulin surges, the more aggressively your body builds and holds fat tissue. Think of insulin as a storage receipt. Every spike prints a new one. A day of low-fat health food can print a dozen. Decades of following this framework produced the exact metabolic collapse it was designed to prevent: rising insulin resistance, visceral fat accumulation around the organs, and epidemic rates of type 2 diabetes, not despite the diet, because of it. This is why populations that eat traditional high-fat diets, Mediterranean olive oil, Scandinavian fish egg, heavy traditional cooking consistently show lower rates of metabolic disease than populations following modern low-fat guidelines. Nothing makes this contradiction more visible than the next habit. Habit 6. Replacing whole fruit and vegetables with fresh juice as a health strategy. The idea: extract vitamins and minerals from produce in concentrated form. The problem: the extraction removes the one thing that makes fruit biologically safe for your liver: fiber. It physically traps sugar molecules in the intestine, slowing their absorption and triggering hormones that signal fullness. Without it, the fructose in a typical juice, often equivalent to 4 to 6 pieces of fruit, hits your liver almost simultaneously. Your liver processes fructose through a pathway called fructokinase, and unlike glucose, fructose metabolism has no feedback brake, no satiety signal, no shut-off valve. Your liver converts the excess directly into fat, a process called de novo lipogenesis, literally making new fat while also generating uric acid, which drives inflammation and raises blood pressure. Think of it like pouring a pitcher of liquid sugar directly through a funnel into your liver with no gatekeeper at the door. With repeated daily exposure, this pathway contributes to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, affecting more than 1 in 4 adults in developed countries, most of whom have no idea it is happening. And for people juicing high oxalate green spinach beet tops, Swiss chard, the concentrated oxalate load without fiber to bind it dramatically raises kidney stone risk. This is why a glass of orange juice raises blood sugar faster than a candy bar. The sugar was always there, the fiber just was not. Now here is where it gets genuinely surprising. Because the next habit targets something doctors have actively told you to maximize. Habit 7. Long sleep as a health and recovery strategy. The danger of consistently sleeping under 6 hours is not in question. Chronic sleep deprivation raises cortisol, impairs memory consolidation, and accelerates cardiovascular aging. That data is clear. But here is the part that almost never gets discussed. Consistently sleeping 9 to 10 hours is associated with an even higher all-cause mortality risk than sleeping 6. Multiple large meta-analyses covering hundreds of thousands of participants show that long sleepers 9 or more hours per night have 25 to 50% higher risk of dying from any cause compared to those sleeping 7 to 8 hours. This holds after adjusting for income, illness, and lifestyle factors. Causality runs in both directions. Chronic illness causes long sleep as often as long sleep indicates illness. But the signal is strong enough that researchers now treat persistent extended sleep as an independent risk flag, in the same category as unexplained fatigue or unintentional weight loss. The biological mechanisms under investigation include chronically elevated inflammatory markers during prolonged bed rest, reduced cardiovascular efficiency, and structural brain changes associated with cognitive decline in imaging studies. The optimal window is 7 to 8 hours, not 6, not 10. The curve bends back up on both sides, and most people only hear about one end of it. But the next one is the version of this lesson that hurts most, because it involves something sold at every pharmacy as the safest possible daily investment in your health. Habit 8. Aggressive daily vitamin and antioxidant supplementation. Most supplements at standard doses are harmless. Some are genuinely useful for people with documented deficiencies. But several of the most popular have been tested in large, randomized controlled trials, the most rigorous form of clinical evidence, and the results were not neutral. Beta-carotene. The antioxidant supplement sold in every health food store as a cancer preventative. It was tested in 2 major trials in the 1990s, the CARET trial and the ATBC trial. Both were stopped early. Participants taking beta-carotene supplements had a 28% higher rate of lung cancer deaths than those taking a placebo. The supplement designed to prevent cancer was accelerating it. Vitamin E. The SELECT trial, published in 2011, followed over 35,000 men. Those taking high-dose vitamin E supplements had a 17% higher rate of prostate cancer compared to the control group. Not lower, higher. The mechanism, researchers believe, is interference with your body's natural oxidative stress signaling. Your immune system uses controlled bursts of oxidative stress to identify and destroy abnormal cells, including early-stage cancer cells. Think of it like a controlled burn clearing out diseased tissue. High-dose antioxidants extinguish that fire, the smoke detector goes permanently silent. Iron supplements taken by people who are not deficient generate free radicals, unstable molecules that attack cell membranes and DNA, and have been linked to accelerated cellular aging and elevated colorectal cancer risk. This is not a case against all supplementation. It is a case against the assumption that more of a good thing is always better, the same error that built this entire list. Habit 9. Training like an elite endurance athlete as a permanent lifestyle. The evidence for regular moderate exercise is overwhelming. 30 to 60 minutes of moderate cardio several times a week reduces cardiovascular disease, extends cognitive function, and lowers all-cause mortality in every dataset ever studied. That data does not move. But at the extreme end, daily marathon preparation, multi-year triathlon training, ultra-endurance events treated as a lifestyle, the picture changes. Cardiologists now have a name for it: Pheidippides, cardiomyopathy, named after the Greek messenger who ran from the battlefield of Marathon to Athens to deliver news of victory and died on arrival. Years of sustained high-intensity endurance training creates micro-tears in the heart muscle, particularly in the right ventricle, the chamber that pumps blood to the lungs under maximum pressure during prolonged exertion. Those tears heal, but they heal as scar tissue, a process called myocardial fibrosis. Scar tissue does not contract the way healthy cardiac muscle does. It disrupts the heart's electrical coordination. Multiple studies of veteran endurance athletes found rates of atrial fibrillation, an irregular rapid heartbeat that dramatically raises stroke risk 5 times higher than in non-athletes. After a standard marathon, troponin, the same protein that spikes in your bloodstream during a heart attack, rises measurably in the blood of most finishers. The heart has been damaged, it heals. But the scar tissue accumulates with every training cycle, every race, every year. Chronically elevated cortisol from sustained training also suppresses immune function, degrades joint cartilage, and over years accelerates inflammatory aging at the cellular level. Think of it like running a factory at 140% capacity indefinitely. The output does not double. The machines just break down faster. Habit 10. Taking a low-dose aspirin every day for your heart. For over 30 years, this was one of the most commonly given pieces of preventive health advice in Western medicine. Low-dose aspirin, 81 milligrams, the baby aspirin, works by blocking platelets, the blood cells that clump together to form clots. Fewer clots meant fewer heart attacks. The logic was clean. Doctors gave this advice across the counter. Health associations endorsed it. Hundreds of millions of people followed it. Then, in 2018, three major randomized controlled trials published their findings within months of each other. Aspri, Ascend, and Arrive, all three studied aspirin in people without a prior heart attack or stroke. All three found the same thing. The reduction in cardiovascular events was matched almost exactly by an increase in serious bleeding complications. Gastrointestinal hemorrhage, where the stomach or intestine bleeds internally. Hemorrhagic stroke, where a blood vessel in the brain ruptures instead of clots. In the Aspri trial specifically, the aspirin group showed higher all-cause mortality than the placebo group. The net benefit in healthy adults without prior cardiac events, 0. In some groups, negative. The American Heart Association and the American College of Cardiology updated their official guidelines in 2022. The recommendation is explicit: do not take daily aspirin for primary prevention if you have not had a prior heart attack or stroke. The advice that hundreds of millions of people built into their daily routine had been quietly, formally, reversed. Most people have no idea this happened. The pattern across all 10 of these is not bad luck or bad science. It is the same mistake repeated. Treating dose as irrelevant. Treating more as always better. And treating cultural consensus as clinical evidence. Your body has its own calibration systems for hydration bacteria exposure. Sunlight and oxidative stress systems refined over millions of years. The habits that override those systems, even with good intentions, tend to produce exactly the problems they were meant to prevent. If you only take one action after watching this, check whether you are taking a daily aspirin for prevention and verify whether that recommendation still applies to your situation. The reversal is complete. It is official, and most people still have not heard. The habits that shorten your life the most are rarely the ones you are ashamed of. They are the ones you are proud of.